Secret. Okay. So thank you. Thank you for doing this so much. And, gosh, I guess like, is there any question that you would really want to start with? I know I posed a few beforehand. Does that, or any of them like kind of
Yeah.
coming to you?
Maybe just for, I don't know if you asked this in other ones or not, but maybe just a little bit about me in general, like kind of
Oh
what my
yeah,
day-to-day life looks like, in case
please.
anybody can relate,
Yeah,
Um,
please.
so, okay, great. I'm a nurse by trade. I'm currently working from home, which was a recent transition, and I have two kids. Right now, they're 9 and 3 years old, and married. We've been married over 10 years now. So,
Wow.
um, yeah. So we're always, doing something around here. So,
And what's your current position since you're now working from home?
oh, it's a clinical nurse manager. It would be
Mm,
my title. Yeah.
managing. Ah,
Yes.
cool. Cool. Okay. So what what was kind of going on in your life that motivated or inspired you to join the Living from the Core membership? I like
Yes.
it's almost been a year, so I know you kind of have to like
Mhm.
pull back in the memory for that.
I know. So I was thinking back on that, and I guess what it was is I had finished up like a package of sessions with you, like just the
Mhm.
private call sessions, and was kind of thinking like, where do I go from here? And it was perfect timing and alignment for sure, because you're like, well,
Right.
I have this starting. I'm like, well, this makes sense. So
Yeah.
it was just kind of like a logical next step for me. Like I really honestly didn't give it any thought. It was just like I'm doing it. So
Yeah. Right.
there's just some choices like that where it's just like the choice is made for you and you happily go along with it. So um but yeah, it was, I guess, as far as like where I was at too is just recently learning about doing some of that inner child work and tapping
Yeah.
into just like I keep thinking about the word magic that happens when you really are starting to align with yourself and your core.
Mhm.
And I just wanted to know, more of it and get people around me who are also practicing it so that we could kind of speak the same language with each other. So I was very excited
Yeah.
for the prospect of doing that, like in a group setting.
Which was really, I'm remembering back now to your sessions, and that you're right, it was definitely an easy yes. And it was, I would say it was in the flow because you during your sessions were so just invested in this lifestyle, right? That you have learned and dabbled in. I mean, you had been to a retreat, right? And then it
Hmm.
kind of folded into into private work. And then, and so you didn't really want to do it just in a container by yourself, now that I'm thinking about that. And so it's a really, really good point of, you know, being able to be in community with people that are practicing it, and that
Hmm.
it's not there's not a lot of, I think there's a lot of programs and opportunities and communities out there where we can, of course, like gather as women and laugh and have fun or have experiences together, or,
Hmm.
perhaps it's a Bible study or a book club, or a networking group. But really rarely are we actually digging down in and practicing, right? What some of these concepts. What would you
Right.
say about that?
Exactly.
Agree, disagree?
Definitely agree. And I think my AirPods might be dying, so I'll take them out when they do. Sorry.
Yeah,
But
yeah, that's
they
fine.
dinged at me.
Yeah,
But yeah, that's so true. It's especially, as an adult, it's so hard to find groups of people that you can sometimes go deeper with if that's something you want. And that can be a little like lonely and frustrating in my
yeah,
experience. So, when you do join something hoping it might be a little bit more, it's not really guaranteed. So at least with this, it's like if you've signed up for this, you're at least at some point open to, going a little deeper with people. So yeah, it was fun to meet everybody in the group for sure.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Would you talk a little bit more about like kind of what has shifted and transformed in your life, like kind of externally, but also internally as you've been going through this?
Yes. Okay. So I'll start internally first, I guess, since that comes first. Um,
Thank you.
Definitely. Yes. Um, for sure. I feel like kind of continuing on from my sessions, which were the big turning point for me after we did the retreat, is just realigning with the truth that like there's nothing wrong with me, that I am good inside.
Yeah.
Which is
Yeah.
funny to say that because it seems so simple, yet I didn't realize how radical like it was to know that, but then to actually believe it and like live like it is very different. And probably one of the biggest like internal transitions I've made, and it's crazy what it affects because it's not just me, it's how I'm treating my kids now, like with that in mind.
Yeah.
Um, that's probably the biggest internal one, and then also just I feel like I was living a long time with like an escapism mentality of like, oh gosh, life is so hard. I have to do all this stuff. I just need to like leave or escape to, quote, like refill my cup or self-care.
Yeah.
But it's not that I don't sometimes still have that, but it's like very different. It's like knowing that I have the internal resources already, that I don't have to wait for PTO time or like this perfectly planned trip. Like I have the tools to achieve like joy and peace like already within myself, which just hearing
Wow.
myself say it, it's like, gosh, that's
It
a
makes
big
you want to
deal.
cry. It's a
I
huge
know, it's
deal.
crazy. Like
Yeah.
truly, even just recently I was thinking about that because we're in like a different financials um year where we're like, saving for one thing and not like going on extra trips and stuff. And I feel like beforehand that would have really bothered me. But
Yeah.
honestly, I was telling my husband last night, I'm like, I actually love my life right now. Like, I don't feel like I have to necessarily escape it or anything, like
Yeah.
that's
Yes.
that's a big deal for me. So, because I used to
That's
constantly
huge.
be like waiting on the next like break or, I feel like a lot of us live like that, like the concept of like living
Yes.
for the weekend and stuff like that.
Hmm.
Not to say that I don't have hard weeks, but it's just overall been a huge shift for me internally in that respect. And that is like I would be happy if that's all there ever was. So all those,
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah, I'll take it. So yeah.
Yeah, because it sounds like it was kind of plaguing you and actually creating more stress, even though, like living for the weekend or going on those, like kind of looking for the next thing, an adventure especially is perceived as very much a positive, right? I mean, like
Hmm.
we've certainly learned that
Yeah.
in our culture, work to the bone and then have your vacation. No one ever really tells you that, until you like witness somebody else experiencing it or you experience yourself, that it takes like a lot of time to come down to even
Hmm. Oh yeah.
enjoy that.
Yeah. Kind of that work hard, play hard mentality, which if it works for you, great, but it wasn't working for me so much.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it sounds like there's much more of a flow in your life now and that you love yourself way more and have, well, I mean, of course I've been able to experience it and see it, but you've had conversations with yourself. Like you've been able to
Hmm.
meet with those parts of you that, like the mean girl parts or the imposter syndrome parts. Um,
Hmm.
and actually what I call like, it doesn't come from me, but like invite them to tea,
Hmm.
and really come together as opposed to keeping it separate.
Hmm. Yes. Yeah. And making that, I feel like more recently, the group has definitely helped me make that like a daily thing instead of like a waiting until I'm feeling like a little more out of control, but I'm able to
Yeah.
tap into it on a daily basis a little bit more than I, had been doing before. So that has that has helped me a lot too. And externally, guess there's probably more
Yeah,
internally, but those are the main ones.
I love it. Thank you.
Um, for sure. I was just gonna say it's funny. I feel like really my husband should be interviewed, not me.
I
Because he's
know.
the one who's like really, I feel like, seen things, the most. Because when it's you, you're still hearing all the internal dialogue, and it's like
Yeah,
you don't really see the change as much in yourself, I feel like, as much as the people around you do. So if there
yeah,
was a litmus test, it would definitely be like maybe what your spouse or closest person, witnesses in your life. Because with
yes.
especially starting with the sessions, he was like, 100% yes, pay for whatever you need with Dr. Sarah. You do whatever
Right.
you think she has.
Keep going.
It's working. I'm like, oh, really? Oh, okay.
Right. Keep
So
going.
there was a moment where we were having dinner late last year, and it was like chaos. Like, the kids were
Yeah.
like probably screaming at each other and throwing food. And he was like looking at me like, are you okay? Like, you're not like upset, like you're not reacting, like, not that I'm always like this anymore, but it was just like one of those moments where I was like, I'm like zen inside myself. He's like literally
Yeah.
thought something was wrong with me. He's like, are you feeling okay? Like, are you sick? I was like, no, I'm just fine. If they want to act like that right now, that's fine. I'm just gonna eat my
Yeah.
dinner. It's all good.
Yeah.
So yeah, so he's been really encouraging for sure, and I'm grateful for that, with just like telling me when he sees differences of like how I'm handling conflict, like within our relationship, and with our kids, and even, from there too. So yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, uh, that just speaks volumes, I think, to yourself too. You're right. I probably should be interviewing all of the partners,
Yeah.
family members out there. Because that, I think, like, we do the core alignment method, and that's really truly that that emerge
Mhm.
part of the core, where like the fact that you can then practice that and that your family can see it and take action and emerge out into the world as someone who is less reactive, right, in these very tense situations. I mean, it's worth its weight in gold. I know it has been for me too, personally.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. How else externally? I mean, you mentioned your financial, situation has been kind of slightly different, but there's been some cool external things that have transpired
Oh
since
yeah, that's true. I didn't think
last
about that.
June. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, last year I was pretty down about like one of my, I don't know, just dreams and goals was to be able for us to own a house one day. And I had a lot of definitely like I guess negative, just like agreeances on that. Like that's never, I've been told that will never happen, so it never will, or it would be so much work, or we'd have to pay off so much debt or whatever. But it's funny, like, yeah, as soon as I started opening up to like the possibility and not holding such a tight hand over things, or just being open again, things started falling into place like they do. And yeah, it's so cool because the beginning of this year we were able to put down our down payment on a house, and it's supposed to be built the end of the year. It's a really cool thing. Yeah.
It's huge.
Ah, yeah, I
It's
think it's funny
huge.
because it's kind of like in process. We've been feeling like the celebration part of it because
Yeah.
we we're trying to break away from that, like, okay, when's the rug gonna be pulled out from under us mentality. But I'm
Ooh,
like, no, I think it's the done deal. Like we've signed everything. It's
yeah.
like happening. They're not
Yes.
gonna be like, just kidding. So even though
Exactly.
it feels like it a little bit sometimes, but yeah, that's been a huge thing for our family. And also just like the mentality of it, like to be able to save money for something specific, doing it in like an empowering way instead of being like, oh yeah, I can't go, like we
Right.
have to we have to save money, we don't have enough money for this. We even canceled our like big anniversary trip last year for our 10-year wedding anniversary,
Yeah.
which was hard. It was a hard decision, but at the end of the day, like I think we made it in a different energy than we would have maybe like a couple years ago even. It was more like,
Absolutely.
no, we're adults and we know what the right decision is, and we're doing this instead of that. So, that can hopefully be later.
Yes.
Um, but that was a big growth point for us for sure, like financially, like just feeling more in control over things, instead of being a
Yeah.
victim of, whatever it might be. So, and that's been through like some job changes, a couple job changes actually, and not working period of time. And yeah, I struggle with for sure like anxiety with money factor. And I'm not gonna say, I've not conquered that at all, but I feel like I'm more equipped to kind of like know how to feel into it and where it's like really connected in
Yeah.
me, with like a safety factor and that kind of thing. So
Yes.
um, yeah, like our whole, I guess, like approach to money has definitely changed a lot too. So, and that, of course affects everything too. So,
It does. And I mean, like I've now that we're talking about it, like I've witnessed that shift in you. I mean, granted, you and I
really,
don't,
that's cool.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, of course, we got to talk more, on a consistent basis with the one-on-one sessions, but we still do some sessions with the living from the core. And your whole energy and approach is exactly how you just described it. Like it's more grounded, it's more clear, it's way less from the like the essence and the energy of kind of victim or life is happening to me or an old belief system. And it's way more in this realm of unconditional love and possibility
Mm.
and open and expansiveness, to where it just starts to happen. And I mean, it's been happening. I mean, it's beautiful. Like to be able to see the picture of the kids, right? Like in front of the property. Oh my goodness. In the
Yeah,
group
it's
that
been
just,
really
oh
emotional for us for sure. It's like such a big
yeah.
deal. Like, we have like a long family story of stuff and it's just been really, really meaningful for us to be able to do that. So, well,
Yes. That is a very important story too. Yeah.
oh, yeah.
And this is a huge monumentous thing. And I think it just speaks volumes for where you've come and what you've tapped into, to be able to gather that sense of safety and security and trust, that like you just kind of have to have the next pieces figured out and go with the flow, as opposed to having every single one
Mhm.
figured, all the steps,
Yes.
that
Yeah,
need to
trust is a
happen.
big one for sure. Yep.
Yeah. What have kind of been like your, favorite parts, I guess we could say, or like what's really what's kind of supported you the most and like helped you with the living from the core membership?
Ooh, yeah. I'm kind of nerdy, so I love the videos that you've posted. Like,
Good. Yeah.
yeah, those have been my favorite to go through those. And then, so we do the full moon rituals and the new moon rituals. And there's like a cadence to that that's like been really comforting and just really cool to note like the changes with each time. Like following the moon cycles is something I had always kind of wanted to do and dabbled in, but doing it in this like setting has been so cool. And I've even done
Yeah.
it with my husband some, like got him into it and we like soaked in the moonlight together on the back porch. And it's been
Yes.
kind of fun to like share that with my
Yes.
family even, I think it's cool to like allow those, I don't know, just like acknowledging some of the energy shifts that are probably happening that we can be more aware of and tap into more. So that's been really fun part of it for me for sure.
Yeah, well, that's super good to hear that the videos are resonating. And well said about the cadence. I mean, because the using the moon cycle was kind of new to me too. Several years ago, I had been in a group of the amazing Laura Thompson Brady, and that was kind of when I was exposed to it. And I just was like, oh my goodness, this is so much of a gentler way
Mhm.
to like set intentions for a period of time. Like it just felt so soothing to tune in at the new moon and then to release, like practice celebrating and releasing during the full moon.
Mhm.
So I'm really, really glad to hear you say that. And, this particular one hasn't been like an in-depth study, right? But it's been more again of that like experiential of being able to use it.
Mhm.
Um, Has there anything that you would is there anything that you would shift or change about it? I know that, one of the things that you and I had talked about was, just being able to have more opportunities for connection, and storytelling and, just getting to meet the other women.
Mhm. Yeah, probably so. Like, I'm glad that it is virtual so that, you can open it up to people that are not just in your area. So I'm very grateful for that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I think it definitely is a little more challenging if we, just you don't know anybody at all to be able to forge that path to like being vulnerable and connecting with other people.
Yeah.
Um, I think, yeah, like the way it's happened right now, you just give a lot of space for like each person to kind of do what they're comfortable with. And so yeah, in that way, it's kind of obvious like who is more open to maybe like doing a side like voice note together
Yep.
or just like wants to be tagged, in like a general like, hey, how are you doing post or whatever. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's definitely in future groups. I think it's only going to get better and better. So that's
Yeah.
exciting.
What has that been like for you, during this year about being like vulnerable and courageous and sharing? Because I think you and I are fairly similar in the sense that, we're not afraid to necessarily speak up or to share. And there are some parts of our lives, that are a little bit more uncomfortable. And, we don't always know, is it okay to be authentic
Mhm.
and show up fully. So
Mhm.
like, how's that process kind of been for you?
Mhm. Yeah, I think I probably didn't give myself as much permission in the beginning. Like I wish I had
Hmm.
probably get go to do that. Just because I am more likely to share things
Mhm.
and that probably comes from some like false beliefs of maybe that I'm too much that I'm still letting go of too, to be honest.
Mm.
Like, oh, Alyssa
Yeah.
shared some stuff like,
Right.
okay.
the, the
Because that's
hangover.
yeah,
Like,
exactly. Yeah, like the over vulnerability hangover, right? Like, because
yeah.
I've felt that before and I've kind of, I guess, like fumbled through that in life. Like, when is it appropriate to like really, share like whatever it is? So,
Yeah.
you have hard stuff, but it's who you are. Like for me, our story is so important for me for people just to understand like who I am and who my family is and
Mhm.
because I gain so much when other people share that stuff because especially when you first meet somebody, you just kind of are assuming like, oh, their life looks so great, grand,
Right.
easy, it's good to peel back the layers and that's when we can really help each other the most. So but it's been fun to yeah, like I've kind of just started processing with everybody. So and I
Yeah.
appreciate you supporting that because it
Yeah.
really, even if maybe nobody, if people just watched it and didn't say anything, that's okay. It really helps the person sharing, like for
Yes.
sure, like to solidify some stuff and just saying it out loud in a format where like I know you guys know what I'm talking about. Whereas if I'm sharing it with maybe another group of friends, it would be harder. It wouldn't be as validating because they wouldn't really have the baseline to know what I'm
Right.
even where I'm even going, So which
Yeah.
has been fun to explain that stuff too to people who are not a part of, this kind of work. But it's nice to have like a soft landing, like just for you guys to listen and say it back to me. And
Hmm.
you're really good at that, like saying back, like, this is what I heard you saying. And like sometimes connecting dots that I wouldn't have even been like, oh, well, yeah, of course, that makes sense. So,
Right.
so that has definitely helped. It just, I feel like it's like an energetic thing. It's like, it almost is like a calming effect. Like you kind of have to, it builds up. I like physically feel it sometimes. Like I have to share this. Like I just have to, whether anybody cares or not,
Yeah.
whether I cry or not on video. And once it's done, I'm like, oh, okay, that's what I was supposed to do. So it's out there. So yeah, that's been a useful part for sure, is kind of having like access to multiple different like formats in your group, so that if that's something you wanted to do, you can type a paragraph, or you can share a live video, whatever's easier. So
Right. Yeah. Cause we have that, we have the community, right? And at the moment it's on Facebook. It was on Kajabi, but that wasn't really working for all of us. It wasn't easy. So we
yeah.
moved it to Facebook. And then we have the Kajabi, like that membership app, so that's where you can also access a lot of the meditations and the workbooks and kind of anything that you can do on your own. And have that at your disposal for the moon cycle and the change of seasons and the core work. And then we also have the monthly Zoom gatherings. And then we've also had a retreat.
Yes, the retreat is worth everything. So yeah. That's my favorite for sure, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's that's that in-person time, right? Yeah. What was I can assume, but like why was that so meaningful to you, that retreat? Like what was so special about it?
Yeah, I think for one, it was almost, well, I guess I can't remember what day. It was pretty much a year from when I had first done the retreat, because when
Yeah.
first, and it's kind of neat to like compare a little bit and just kind of like see how things affected me differently. But that's how I got introduced to you, and this work mostly was like, for whatever reason, like the universe was just like drawing me to like, I need to do this retreat.
That's
So I
the
don't
way it goes.
I just jumped into the cold pool of water, not even knowing. So
Right.
that's how I do things sometimes, just like head first, like, oh, you don't even know a little bit about this, let me just do everything. So
Yeah.
but I jumped into that, and I feel like that first weekend for me was definitely more of like a exposure and healing kind of process. Like I did a lot of like cleansing tears a lot of times, and I think it just like opened up like a kind of a box of things to look at, like, oh, this hit a lot of nerves, like why is that, like why is this making, I'm like realizing all this stuff and processing it. And it was I think I left feeling like, oh my gosh, there's a lot, like, to not like in a bad way, but just like there's a lot exposed, and like I am excited to like dig into this more. And that's why I did the package with you, was to be like, okay, let's keep talking about this. So
Right.
and then when we did it last year, it was a lot different. It was more like I guess like really validating and reminders of all that, like just kind of base stuff, and it hit in a different way. Like I feel like I could tell I had like a higher energy about it than I did the first year. And that was just exciting to feel. It felt like a little bit of progress in a way.
Yeah.
I don't want to think of it as like a ladder, like I was lower, I guess, but I guess I was a lot more open than I had used to been. Like I was just like in a receiving posture instead of like a scared, like closed, like, oh my gosh, this hurts posture, So
Yeah.
so that was really encouraging for sure. And I think the fact that we had all been in this group together made it even more of an intimate like feeling and setting, because we knew when we left, like this wasn't it. Like we were gonna hear about everybody's, how you're implementing this or what you're struggling with or when. So that's kind of cool, I think, to do it in that format, where, because it's a lot of stuff to go through with somebody in a weekend, and just be like, all right, bye. I guess I won't see you again, so so it's cool, I feel like, to have that connection still afterwards, so you're not like just jumping off a cliff all by yourself. So
no, it's interesting, because that's exactly, it started, to me, I'm gonna share a lot here, but like it started to feel kind of ethically just inappropriate to, because I whether I want to admit it or feel like it's egotistical or not, like there is a healer inside of me that, it's been a big gift. And so when people come to these events, it is opening something, and it is lovely, right? And it is going to create an amazing lifestyle shift, but it felt like it was so much for for one retreat. And I remember one woman in particular at the very first retreat almost having kind of like a deer in headlights look of like, how am I supposed to go back out into the world after this? And she did, and amazing things happened. Yet it pained me to know, that there wasn't a tether, right? And everybody is meant to continue to explore as they are, and everyone, I fully hold and believe that. So it felt really good to be able to have those that year container, right? To really be truly committing to this together. How, if any, and maybe not, I'm just curious, like, has any of this really helped you kind of tap into like your soul purpose, or like your mission, here on earth and in your community at all?
Oh, I like that question. Gosh, this might be a general answer, but I just feel like the word love just keeps coming up for me in like every area, like,
Yeah.
interpersonal, political, like in our family, like everything's pointing to like just being more of a vessel of making sure people know that they are good and they are loved, and whatever that means. So yeah, I think I'm getting closer for sure, which is
Yeah.
a cool feeling. And just existing, just being like aware of the earth and my body. And I love your meditations where you even like visualize like just like parts of your body that, and give it attention and love, and like fill it with light. And just that in itself, like just being here and being alive, it feels more meaningful for sure. Like just that awareness.
Yeah.
That is definitely exciting for sure. So yeah, that might, again, I don't know if that answers your question, but that was my first.
I mean, there's no bigger answer than that about why we're here. And, I think it speaks volumes to, again, it starts with us. It starts with us, and loving ourselves, and then that can ripple out. And it doesn't have to be like, I don't know, the very cliche, or again, perfect, like I have to fully love myself 100 bajillion % in order for it to ripple out. Simply the radical act of practicing and showing up when you can and how you can, and of yourself, is everything. So no, I don't think there's any better answer. I love it. That's fantastic. And you touched on, I mean, we haven't really touched on, but like we also do we live by the seasons, right? So like the core, the CORE kind of lines up with each, like there's a piece that we practice each season. So like right now, as we're recording this, we're in the spring, which is a time of emergence, and action. So like, it sounds like, but it sounds like it's also attuned you to your body, but also to kind of the rhythms of nature.
Yeah, like if anybody knows about the Enneagram, I'm a type 5, and it's like the most in your head personality you can get.
Okay.
So that stuff is like might become second nature to some people, but it's been a really big deal for me to like be aware of my body. Like I'm not just carrying around my head all day. Like every part of me matters and has something to say, and that's been really cool to explore. So it's like a whole new world for sure.
Oh, that's amazing. That's so beautiful to say. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. You're so embodied. I mean, I just have to, because it's just so fun to like actually get some time with you, like one-on-one on Zoom. And I mean, you're just so grounded and in your body. And, I don't sense that as much, or any of that like anxious energy and kind of worry that sometimes, gosh, before would come in.
Sure.
And I'm sure it does, right? Like me, yeah, everybody, again, it's not about that. Like, it's not about it completely being eradicated. It's working with it. And again, love. But, yeah.
That's cool. Thanks for saying that. That's encouraging to hear.
You're
Yeah,
welcome.
definitely every day is different, but yeah. So
Well, I think this is why, like, this is a, it's a process, and it's kind of meant to, if somebody chooses to kind of continue back year after year and kind of cycle through, because, the same thing like with the retreats, right? Like each time you go, it's going to be a different layer and a different piece, and you're going to kind of sink and nestle more deeply into it. And that's certainly been this way for myself. And I think others that I've talked to about it, cause it's about the journey instead of the destination, right? Like, even though
yeah, that reminds me of the
destination.
tornado analogy you've talked about, which you can probably better than me, but I always think about that because I'm like, really, like, I just got
Say it. Say it.
and
Say
yeah,
it.
you're like spiraling in this little tornado, and you might have started, like, I don't know if this started the top or the bottom. I guess the bottom, maybe. I don't know.
The bottom. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You keep hitting the same wall, but you're like at a different, like, you're getting out of the tornado, but it seems so familiar because you're like, It's like, but
hitting the same
you were down
spot.
here last time. It might look very similar, but it's different. Like, it's a different, like you said, layer of it or whatever. And that's so encouraging. Yeah. Like with this kind of stuff, because gosh, I mean, yeah, I don't think any of us ever arrive.
Yeah.
Which, it wouldn't be fun if we did, probably. So there's always another layer to peel back. So for sure. Yeah. And I've definitely a long way to go, but it's
I
fun.
don't know. I think you're closer.
Yeah. So
yeah.
yeah.
Well, I just thank you so much for taking this time and for sharing, parts of your journey and the successes that you've had, and the, among like the truth, right, is that among the successes are also moments of real reckoning and practice. I call them practice points. Right?
Yes.
So I just really appreciate you sharing today.
Yeah, thank you. I'm so glad to share it. And I hope, anybody watching, if you're considering doing the membership, like, I was thinking about that, like, what would somebody want to know? Or honestly, I feel like it probably will choose you, like, if you're meant to do it, you're gonna do it. So but it's not something you would really force. Like, I think you really need to be in a place where it's like, it makes sense to do it, and not just, on the fly or to force it or anything. But because it's a good space to be in for sure. So thanks for asking me this stuff, Sarah. Those good introspection questions.
I know, isn't it? Yeah. Like, that's what I started to think about. I was like, wow, this is really helpful for all of us in ways that we didn't even plan for it to be helpful.
Yep.
Yeah. And I think it's on the website under, but, gosh, for a long time now, I've said, like, if you're reading this right now, like, your core is calling you, same. It's like, if you're watching this right now, like, your core is calling you. And I think, that's kind of I feel like the theme today that I really picked, one of the themes that I really picked up on, and that is the truth, like, who this is meant for, like, it will come into your sphere, and you will just, kind of know. You may want to talk yourself out of it or ignore it, but it'll just kind of keep coming back.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you trust those nudges, and it'll take you to some pretty amazing places, like buying your first home with your family that you never thought possible.
And it's a domino effect, because one of my very closest friends, I was telling her when I first kind of started your stuff, and like, it's crazy the things that have even happened in her life. Like, we all affect everybody. It's just really cool and crazy to think about, like, the things and realizations that she's gone through too, and that I've watched her grow as a friend. Like, that if I had not trusted my gut to even, like, just go on that weekend retreat, like, I don't know, like, what it would have been different in my life and her life. It's really cool to see the whole effect of everything. So yeah.
That gives me chills again, knowing her and being like, whoa, the two of you all.
Like,
That ripple effect.
Differences. Yeah. Big life. So
both of you all, but wow. We could talk forever. Thank you.
I know.
I'm going to turn off the recording.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.